Welcome back to Highlander Heart. This time, I'm afraid there's no Joe. It's his birthday. Happy birthday, Joe. Instead, I have the incredible Jonathan Melville, author of A Kind of Magic, the making of Highlander book. Hey, John. How you doing?
Hey, Grant. How you doing?
All right.
Great to be here again. It's been a wee while.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for jumping on this. The last 48 hours has been insane.
Well, more for you than me, I think, but yeah.
It's just been nuts. For context, on Friday, the 21st of May, depending on when you're watching this, everything changed. For a while, over a decade, there's been talk of the reboot. It was our first episode that we did last year. We discussed the reboot. And it went through so many different directors, even actors suggested, Tom Cruise, Ryan Reynolds. But it's all, the directors came and went, and the project, ebbed and flowed, and it never quite seemed to gather pace. The last 3 or 4 years, Chad Stahelski's been on board, and because of the success of John Wick, it's just not come. Everyone's been waiting. No, another John Wick movie. Highlander reboot? No, just one more John Wick movie. Okay, Highlander reboot. So, understandably, everybody's been quite skeptical about it until Friday, when it turned out that Superman was just coming down from the skies to pick up the sword, and Henry Cavill is our new Highlander.
Yes.
And literally, I think everybody's minds were blown, and not always necessarily in a good way. I think there's been an awful lot of reaction to it, positive, negative. And that's why we're here today. We're going to be talking about Cavill becoming the Highlander, what that means for the franchise, what it means for the character, and the movie in itself. And we may not definitively find out if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think it's worth talking about. So, John, what were your first thoughts when you saw that post?
Wow. Well, yeah, I mean, a bit like you, I think it's been this over the last, decades, probably more, looking at every couple of years, there's a new mention of a new reboot or a new director attached, as you've been saying. And all these strange names like Ryan Reynolds, who, lovely guy, I'm sure he's a lovely guy and great actor. But I kind of looked at that and thought, really? And so, I don't know, I've never really, I kind of thought for some reason that this might not be a huge budgeted film. Maybe it would be lower budget, maybe it would be an unknown corner.
Yeah.
So to see someone of Cavill's name suddenly come out of nowhere is quite a shock, really. So I suppose the answer is I was shocked. And I'm just a bit unsure because I thought, okay, is this just another rumor? I think it was Deadline that announced it, and like a lot of these sites, they kind of they have the theories and always attached to it, is linked to it. Okay, fine. So I suppose partly it was like, oh well, is this really true? And then maybe an hour after that, on Henry Cavill's Facebook page, he's blatantly saying, yes, I'm involved. I'm now researching kilts and whiskey, and not just any whiskey. He's got a little bottle of sort of really strong, pure whiskey there, not just some mixed thing that £10 off of the co-op shelf. This is like proper stuff someone's given him.
Yeah.
So that kind of then, of course, then you're like, oh well, this is real then.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's amazing that this. I mean, we'll talk soon or in a minute, really, about Henry Cavill and our thoughts on him or of him. But from what I know of him up till now, well, of course, he is Superman, and he's sort of been attached to just about every franchise going. He's been rumored to be Bond. He was in he was in Mission Impossible, which I have seen many, many, many times. I think he's brilliant in that. He was in The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which kind of should have been a franchise, but stalled at the first one. and now I think he was also Sherlock Holmes, wasn't he, in the Netflix?
Yeah, in Enola Holmes. Yeah.
So there's just sort of, in a way, we shouldn't be surprised. It's like, think of a franchise. Henry Cavill's probably going to be in it. Maybe not Wonder Woman. Maybe he wouldn't be Wonder Woman, but then who knows? So I suppose basically, yes, I'm very excited about it, and what it could mean for the world around the Highlander.
Yeah.
If that's your lead, then what else is going to happen?
Well, this is the thing, and I think what you said there was very interesting, and it's true that everybody, I think, well, not everybody, a lot of people were expecting an unknown, because that's what happened the first time. You know, they went down the Superman route of going for a relative unknown in the lead, and really bumping up the the mentor role, and kind of and getting Sean in and selling it on that. And we kind of thought maybe they would do the same thing again. You know, you get your big, huge star, if you can afford one huge star for a Highlander movie, you know, which for us kind of feels like, you know, okay, maybe you can afford one, you know, because this is how we've been like raised for like the last 25, 35 years. Like, well, maybe we can get one in. And if you can get one, it should be the mentor, because that's what happened before. And then all of a sudden, like, as you say, so Henry Cavill is now the lead. Well, what the hell does that mean for the rest of the cast? And as you say, we will definitely unpack this and because it does change an awful lot about the film and the other characters and things like that. And because he's not that Christophe Lambert was skinny by any means. You know, he had a decent enough physique. But I think he is 5'10", maybe something like that, or you know, around there. And Cavill is 6'1", so not as big as you might think he is. You know, you think he's Superman. You think, oh, this guy's, you know, like 6'4", but you know, he's 6'1". It's not. He's relatively tall. But that kind of changes a little bit. So if he's 6'1", what's the Kurgan going to have to be?
Because Cavill is a big guy. Big, broad shoulders, and big bloke. So how do you have an imposing Kurgan if your lead is like that? Yeah,
exactly. And actually, nothing highlights this more than the thing you just posted recently on the group feed that we've got, Boss Logic's poster. Because that actually is the problem with him playing the character. If you're seeing it like that, seeing effectively The Witcher is, you know, with the sword and everything, with those huge broad shoulders, just feels too imposing. He's too, you know, there's too much of a hero thing going on there, and that isn't Connor McLeod, and that's not the character, not what the character should be. Certainly not at this point, anyway, if we're starting from the beginning.
Well, I suppose this is, of course, what we don't know is what they're doing with the script and how this new look is it going to be basically the original film, but just kind of updated a bit, or are they going to do something new? But of course, the idea that Connor, yes, in the original, he was young, meant to be younger than I think Cavill is at the moment.
Oh yeah.
At the same time, he's fighting battles, and you know, he could be well into fighting battles by the time that we meet him in this new film. So he's got the physique, because he's swinging that sword around, and so we don't, of course, we just don't know. But I like, having watched, again, when we talk about this, but The Witcher, which I hadn't watched until about an hour ago, watched the first episode, and to see what he was doing, which was almost John Wick style swordplay, which is what I've been thinking, of course, Chad will bring to it is that energy. And then to see Henry Cavill actually doing a bit of John Wick with swords, you just think, oh, this could be a match made in heaven if they get this right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, from the aesthetic point of view, absolutely. I think he is great for the role in that respect. I would be very happy if he dropped some muscle mass to play this role, though. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I really feel like he needs to not be Superman in a kilt.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, because I think it's far too easy to overlook, especially when you're talking about a very visionary director like Chad Stahelski, and how he approaches kind of storytelling, things like this, to forget that Connor McLeod is a character, to forget that he has, you know, a story in himself, and he's been living forever, and, you know, that there's, you know, all of the things attributed to that. And he's just not this like cool, like muscly, rippled, torsoed guy swinging a sword around and, you know, and looking.
Yeah. He's got to have the kind of well, in theory, he's living a normal life, as you say, and trying to blend into society. Yeah. Although I suppose he has, again, in the original timeline, he has fought in other wars and fought in other battles and things. But certainly by present day, yes, he's not. Probably not having fights all the time, and he's running his antique shop and just keep quiet, really, keep a low profile.
Yeah, exactly.
You're probably right there, actually. Yeah, maybe needs. It might be nice if he, if we're saying the Kurgan has to be even bigger than Cavill, that's going to be tough if he's that size.
It is, exactly. But then, having said that, I think there are two ways they can go with the Kurgan. It's always been interesting, and actually in doing this show for the last year, we've covered a lot of different aspects, and one of the most interesting villains that we've seen is the one from the anime movie, because they went a completely different route with him in creating a bad guy that was imposing in a completely different way. He was a kind of learned man, and he used his brain rather than the brawn to kind of enact all of these things that controlled, you know, the life of the Highlander that's chasing him. And so I think that there's another way. Maybe if you also, while I think of it, Joe Pearson said at the time, the reason being for that was because the Highlander effectively is the savage, or perceived to be the savage. So why not make the bad guy the opposite of that?
Yeah.
So there is the option for doing that in this. There is the option for saying, right, okay, here's your muscled kind of fantasy novel Highlander for the lead. Let's have the bad guy be the flip of that. And let's have the bad guy just be somebody who can manipulate and who, you know, could well be a very skilled sword fighter, but doesn't have to be this kind of 8-foot warrior, you know, like the Mountain or somebody like that from Game of Thrones. Maybe you don't have to keep upping beyond Cavill, you know, in height and muscle mass. Maybe you can flip it and do something different with it. Yeah. So that is a possibility, perhaps.
Absolutely, I think that's very valid. Yes, that would be certainly just a different take on it. And you would think, I would have thought that if this new script is, you know, the writer is not probably trying to just copy everything that was done before. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah,
you have to have certain things in there that people, I think, that the fans recognize, and probably the general public recognize. But yeah, you would want to bring something a bit fresh to it, wouldn't you? So
yeah,
maybe that is the way to go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So one of the other things about Cavill that, again, people weren't expecting is his age. And, you know, the guy he's 38. I mean, he looks good on it, let's be honest. Bastard. But yeah, he's a fair bit older, as we all know from the original movie. Connor's supposed to be 18 in the original movie, which is nuts when you consider how old Christophe Lambert was when he played him, and then obviously subsequent sequels and things like that. But but that's not the reason for the kind of query over the age. It's because if we're looking at this from the standpoint of a franchise going forward, say, you know, who knows what kind of a deal he signed, whether it's like a 3-picture, a 5-picture, or maybe just a 1. I would be surprised if it was just for the 1.
Yeah.
Chad has talked also extensively about the fact that he is open to it being a series as well. and that obviously, as we know, that works. And everybody's been saying it for ages, including you. I know that it would be almost even better as a series because there's way more to explore, and there's so many good examples of that happening on TV, and having had happened on TV in the last sort of 5 or 6 years, that shows that works really well. So at 38, thinking ahead maybe for the next 10 years, by the time he's 48, is that enough time to get, in terms of being an immortal? Is he going to be able to hold that kind? I'm sure he will, but is he too old, do you think? I don't know.
Well, I did think the same. That was one of the first things I did think was the age, because I think Christopher Lambert was maybe 25-ish.
Okay, yeah.
When he took on the role, I think. So that's a fair difference. I don't know. I mean, I did sort of think if they were doing the what would you call it? Not the early days, but the origin story, or what's it? I'm trying to think what you would call the younger Connor.
Yeah.
These days, there's of course a lot of de-aging technology. Now, 38, as we've said, is not old at all. No. But maybe they would do something just to make him even shave another 5 or 6 years off him, or as you're saying, maybe 20 years. But yeah, no, it's a tricky one. That's a very good point about what happens if this is a success. And it's, I mean, look at Roger Moore. By A View to a Kill, he was still saving it, but he was still saving the world. But yeah, I think watching that, you think, oh, maybe that's but he's a little bit past it now. So hopefully they won't get to that stage.
No, no, exactly. Having said all of that, looking at John Wick, I mean, Keanu is, I'm trying to think how old he is now. He's in his late 50s, something like that. And I mean, he's doing fantastic. And, and Chad is showing that he can get a performance out of somebody, at that ripe old age, as if it is these days anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it isn't a problem. But it was something that I kind of thought, because actually, to be fair, I probably didn't even think that Henry Cavill was 38. I probably thought he was a little bit younger than that.
Yeah. Well, it just goes back to that. I think that's, like you've already said, we both really said, our mind was always just in that slightly more unknown person, younger actor, I guess in their 20s.
Yeah.
So it's kind of our mindset, really, isn't it? Where we're based. But no, there's a definite point, and if it does go on for a decade or more, and then they want to do another Highlander, because I think there's always this talk of if it comes back, that it would be multiple films and setting it up, of course, for obvious sequels.
Yeah.
But then maybe they'll do something different with it and say, okay, I don't know, maybe he does somehow age. We're getting into theories, who knows, but there could be an aging factor built in. Maybe he, because of course in the original film he's not immortal by the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if he just stays immortal all the way through the let's say it's a trilogy, that's fine, of course, but maybe you have to have some sort of added factor that maybe he's not immortal by the end of the first one. But I don't know. This is where we can talk about this. This is another. People thinking about this. Well, my brain's not quite thought that one through, but they're going to have to do something.
Yeah.
If it's just, oh, he's immortal, and then he's immortal still, and then he's still immortal, you have to have more danger and more, it's that thing of upping the stakes all the time. How do you do that across, like if you're doing it over one film, you've got to build to the end of the first film.
Yeah.
And then if it's the second one, what do you just does it have to keep going up?
Yeah.
Or do you have to twist it at some point so that he's not so immortal, not so powerful? Don't know, but that's the joy of the screenwriters. That's their job to try.
Exactly. Yeah, we haven't got to worry about that.
I don't envy them. I do not envy them having to come up with a new franchise, but it must be fun. But daunting as well. If you get it wrong.
Oh, they can't get it wrong. I'm sure.
If you're watching, Chad, we have full faith in you.
Oh, 100%. I have never been happier than when he came on board. It was, he's absolutely the right person for this for this task.
Yeah.
So something else that that Cavill brings with him into this role is the baggage of previous roles. I mean, this will happen generally, obviously, for any actor sort of coming onto a franchise. As you already mentioned, actually, Henry's been a part of quite a few different franchises. But for the most part, people are going to think of him as Superman, especially, you know, maybe that wouldn't have been the case were it not for the Snyder Cut of Justice League that kind of reminded us all, you know, that he's Superman. But, you know, that's something of a blessing and a curse. And, you know, are we going to be able to move past that and see him as a different character? Or are we just going to see, oh, well, this is just Superman in the kilt? It's difficult. Yeah.
I mean, I need to remind myself. I mean, I love superhero films, but I'm not obsessed by them. So like I can't actually even remember if I've seen Man of Steel. That's kind of my, like I would watch it and then I might forget if I've actually seen that one, because they all kind of run together a little bit, some of those more recent ones. So for me, I've not watched the Justice League or the Snyder Cut. Right. Partly because I think it just sounds a little bit too long, and I kind of like things just a bit more fun and entertaining rather than dark and moody. And from what I've gathered, there's maybe a bit of darkness in there. And so for me, I don't, the Superman thing doesn't quite, you know, I don't have that in my mind. I have Mission Impossible and August Walker is his character in there. And then watched The Witcher, as I say, tonight. And I was quite happy to just move into that world. I thought, okay, that's who he is now.
Sure.
So hopefully, yes, I think that there's a bit of baggage there, but I guess also the positive is he brings a fandom with him and a fan base with him, which is a massive thing. Of course, that must factor into any decision certainly with some films or some actors. Yeah. Of course, I would hope it's more to do with actual acting ability, but the fan base is a positive.
Yeah.
So no, I can only think it's a good thing that he's bringing these things with him, and I'd like to think anyway.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and even so, you know, we use Keanu as a good example of somebody who has managed to change perceptions of what character people remember him as. Because for the longest time he was Ted from Bill and Ted, even when he did like Point Break, which is just one of the best movies ever. And then for the longest time after that, he was Neo because of The Matrix, and despite whatever he did, and now he's John Wick. So I think, yeah, absolutely. You know, if and I hope it does, if this works as a franchise, then, you know, maybe he'll be remembered as being, you know, the Highlander, and, you know, and that, you know, that will work.
Yeah, totally.
That. So no, that's really cool. So I guess the thing we need to discuss now is just how this affects the movie now that Cavill's a part of it, because as we said before, we always assumed it was just going to be an unknown, and then they'd bring up the ante with all of the extra, you know, with the mentor character and the villains and things like that. How does it affect the actors playing the roles now? Are we thinking they should be bigger, or should they be less? Are they going to choose people that Chaz worked with before, or will they just choose completely different people? We did something on the first show where we all speculated on who we would like to have for all the different roles, but I think that's been, I mean, I'm throwing that out of the window now. Like, that's gone. Like everything has changed. So what do you think about that? And also, do you have any ideas of who you would like to see in those roles?
It's tough, very tough, very tough. I mean, from what I understand, my sort of limited knowledge of film financing, I think the fact that Henry Cavill is attached to this now means the budget can go up.
Yes,
I think that's quite a basic fact, I hope. So that's promising. Of course, the budget doesn't always have to just go into the actors, but I think the idea of being able to look further afield and to sort of say, okay, who can we, let's just bring everything up another level and see if we can bring to it. Now, I kind of go back to this thing of saying, what are they going to do with the script to sort of bring it, to move it on a little bit, and to maybe say, okay, it's a bit more, it's a different, it's 35, almost 40 years later, so we can do different things. I kind of still wonder if they're going to do something different with the Kurgan or with Ramirez. For some reason, in the back of my head, I've got Helen Mirren in my head for Ramirez. I don't know.
I think it was John Mosby that suggested Helen Mirren. I could be wrong, but I think, yeah, that was one of his picks.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know how that would work, but then again, why wouldn't it work? You can make anything work. So, so someone like that as well is someone. Helen Mirren has done a lot of bonkers films over the last few years as well. So maybe that wouldn't be such a surprise that she would do Highlander now. But I don't know. It's a really difficult one. I mean, I think Dave Bautista has been mentioned so many times as the Kurgan. But then I like what you're saying about maybe that's too obvious. Just going for the brawn is not what they should be doing, perhaps. Because that's what you expect them to do. So
sure.
Maybe it should be a female. Why couldn't the Kurgan be a female? It's I don't know. It's a difficult. It's almost an impossible question, that, isn't it? Like, who should you bring in? I just would like to be. I think, like they've done with Cavill, they've sort of surprised us a bit and thrown us off guard a little bit. Just do the same with everyone else. Just announce someone else, a bit like Christopher McQuarrie does with Mission Impossible films. He'll sort of say, "Oh, here's Hayley Atwell. We're not going to tell you who she is. Is she a goodie? Is she a baddie? Don't know." I'd quite like that if the next person they announce, you think that, well, there's no way that's the Kurgan because it's Simon Pegg or something, and it's the Kurgan. But no, I hope they have fun with it as well and just confuse us.
Well, exactly, and I think they've already done that. Neither the original report from Deadline nor Cavill himself has said categorically that he's playing Connor.
True.
Everybody was just assuming that he is, because, as you say, he showed this lovely array of things that he's kind of researching and things like that. Like whiskey and all that kind of stuff. I mean, let's face it, he's playing Connor, but nobody's saying that he is, and so I think they're already playing that game. And you do see that from, with all the Marvel movies. Christian Bale is in Thor, Love and Thunder, but who's he playing? I'm not going to tell you. It builds anticipation within that kind of group, and it's So yeah, you're absolutely right. Maybe we'll get, as long as they don't cast Antonio Banderas, nobody knows who, will be, cast as Ramirez. But secretly I do hope that they cast Antonio Banderas.
No, I mean, I've absolutely no problem with them sticking to what they what we expect.
He is the obvious choice. Of course he is. I just loved him so much in Dr. Dolittle, the Robert Downey one. He was it's, I mean, as a movie it's like but Antonio Banderas is fantastic in it. He's just such a fantastic, fun actor as well. And that was the first role I'd see. Everybody's been talking about him for years to play this role, because he's Spanish. But actually the character he plays in that, he kind of made me think, oh yeah, you know what? I'd love to see that character be Ramirez. He's just fun and kind of irreverent and just enigmatic and just charismatic and all of those things. Was really cool. But no, as you say, it could very easily, again, there's a tale where I won't tell where I heard it, that back when Cedric Nicholas Troyan was going to direct, so he's the guy who did the Snow White and Huntsman sequel, The Huntsman Winter's War, with Charlize Theron and Thor, Hemsworth, sorry, Chris Hemsworth. That he was talking to her about being Ramirez. And then, interestingly, she went on to go and do her own little kind of ode to Highlander movie in the old guard. So I definitely think that there is definitely the chance of having a female Ramirez. I think actually that will work quite nicely.
I'm just sure they would make it work.
Yeah.
I think it's easy. It's like all these things, isn't it? You see the news reports, and then the fans start talking about it and say, "Oh, that on the blonde Bond." Remember all that stuff? It's like it'll never work. And now all these years later, he's still Bond, and Christopher Noel is amazing. And
yeah.
So don't listen to the fans. Like we can have our theories, of course, but I'm glad they don't listen to us, really.
Yeah, no, exactly. Man, look, if they listen to us, well, I said, no, I don't necessarily include myself in this, but if they listen to the fan base, then, they would be, calling up Adrian Paul and saying, do you want to come back as Duncan MacLeod? It seems to be what a fair amount of the fan base wants. Oh, no, it's got to be Adrian Paul. It's got to be Christophe Lambert. And I think, well,
I hope they're in there. Though. I would love to. I mean, I know this. I think I'm sure you think the same. Well, I'm guessing you think the same. I think Christopher Lambert deserves a cameo.
Yeah.
And I hope he would do it. I think he would. I like to think he would do it. I know some actors are maybe do say, "Well, I'm just not. Don't just use me for, just for fun." But I'd love to think he would do some sort of cameo. And well, maybe Clancy, although of course we know he's been a little bit more distant from it all. But and Adrian Paul as well. Well, why not? I mean, Adrian still looks amazing as well, doesn't he? It's like he still looks almost the same age as he did.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It's incredible. So let's maybe have him in the background or a bit more than that, but maybe his cousin Dougal, or
really mess with the fans. It's like have Adrian Paul turn up as like a cousin, cousin Dougal
or cousin Duncan. But
why not just have cousin?
So much fun. It's there's so much. I just can't wait to see this. I'm so glad that we're talking about this and it's positive. And
and that's the thing, this is a really positive thing, and whether or not you believe in Cavill as being capable of bringing a role like this to life, I think the fact that he's involved is a huge thing for the franchise. It's like literally huge. Like, just looking at his Instagram post, it's like 70,000 like comments, even, not even likes. Like, there's just so much. And I'm sitting there going, this is our little corner of fandom. Like, how are normal people talking about this? This doesn't make sense.
This is the start of it. I mean, I'm a big Doctor Who fan, and have been since sort of the 80s, really. And I really got into it just as it got cancelled, bizarrely. Sort of 87, 88, 89. So for about 15 years as a Doctor Who fan, I had this show to myself, as well as some other friends, of course, and a few thousand fans. And then it came back on the TV with Eccleston, and it's now everybody's again. And I know this is something you've talked about, and I think fans have been talking about this for years, is what happens when it comes back, and it's starting. I mean, the fact now that all those, I bet a lot of his followers on Instagram and Facebook won't have heard of Highlander because of the age they are, because they maybe are fans of The Witcher, and they have never heard of Highlander. So now they're probably potentially off having a look on Netflix at this old film that they would never normally watch. So it's incredible. So even if, I mean, it's let's hope, of course, this is actually going to happen. But if for some terrible reason it doesn't, I don't know, there's still all these new fans that have gone off to have a look and see what's this thing. Which is exciting. So
no, it is, exactly.
The franchise is it's being reborn as we speak. It's simmering. It's I don't know, there's something happening already. You can sort of sense it in the
exactly, which is why it's so weird. I just spent the weekend walking around with a big stupid grin on my face, and my wife's just like, oh, God. But it's just it's a huge thing. And again, people, you see the odd comment come up, no, it should never be rebooted, no, you should never remake it, the original's perfect. Do you know what? I agree, the original is perfect, but doesn't mean it shouldn't be rebooted. What I don't want is for the franchise that we love, that is full of so much potential, to be locked up in a time capsule and buried, and that's it. That's because that's what will happen unless people of the next generation, you know, live it again through a new, you know, new movies, new series, you know, that kind of thing, because it deserves to live on.
Yeah, and all those attempts, and this is not the place really to go into it, but all those attempts to try and continue the franchise, of course, in the films and the sequels, just never really quite worked. I'm sure they did financially, of course, otherwise they wouldn't have kept making them.
Yeah.
But fandom-wise, they didn't really bring. I mean, The Source, I don't think, brought many more fans to the franchise.
No.
Sorry, anyone who's involved in The Source, but yeah, it's so. Yeah, this idea that it's now going to be, yeah, like you say, it's come out of mothballs almost and live again. Yeah. And I think it will be tough. I mean, it's been tough as a Doctor Who fan in some ways. It's not, maybe tough's not the right word, but just strange seeing, and it was at the start, and it still kind of is, seeing young, you know, it sounds very old, but youngsters, I don't know what the word is, but just young people anyway, on Twitter, for example, saying, you know, first episode I watched was in 2010 or something. I think, blimey, what? So it's going to be weird for fans to see it's changing and new characters, new people being attached to this and new things happening. But as we're saying, the original will always be there. And I just think it's brilliant for people to go and watch the old one as well, and
exactly.
It doesn't take it away; it's still there. Maybe we'll get better editions on Blu-ray or whatever because of the bump from the new Highlander, which is good for everyone. So,
absolutely, no, this is what I think we've been waiting for throughout a lot of the kind of, you know, little aspects like that. Like, let's, you know, we've got some action figures that are kind of coming out at some point from Incendium, but, you know, let's have those let's have those Funko Pops. Let's have the Kurgan turn up in Mortal Kombat computer game. Let's have these things that we've been waiting for a long time, because all of a sudden people are interested in Highlander again. And yeah, as you say, you know, let them go and watch the first movie. Maybe stop there, but maybe go and watch the first movie again, and you know, and sit there and wonder, like, I wonder how they made that movie. Then go off and buy a book about it. And then
well, exactly. There's nothing selfish in this at all.
No, you're absolutely right. You know, this is whether you buy into Cavill as an actor, person, or whatever, for this role or not. You know, it is nothing. And personally, I do. But this is nothing if not a fantastic thing for the franchise, and I'm very excited about it.
Yeah. He's a very, I don't know the best term. I was going to say like self-aware. I think he knows. He comes across anyway to me and what I've seen, and I think from the films that he's in, the fact he is Superman, he's just very aware of fandom and very sort of self-aware of who he is and what he is, and I don't know. I think he's just a really good choice, and I would never, I would just never thought of him being attached to this, but the more I think about it, the more I think, yeah, this is a good thing. And I'm looking forward to you getting him on the show as well. So,
well, you know what? That idea occurred to me, and then I thought, hang on, I have literally no idea how to even try that. So.
Well, I noticed on Instagram, and that poster that you mentioned, he liked that poster.
So
he's obviously, you know, he might be watching this just now. So, Henry, please come on to the show, and if you want to speak to me for the next volume of my book, love to. But good luck with it, Henry, as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. 100%.
Enjoy it.
All right, well, there you go. Henry Cavill is the new Highlander. It'll sink in eventually, I'm sure. So thanks, John, for joining us on this one. Really appreciate it. Thanks, everyone, for watching. It's been fantastic. And we'll see you again soon. So until then, hold fast.
And don't lose your head.